Hello and welcome to coverage of round number 12. Chris Ha, here's a look at his deck list. You mentioned it before. Grixis here with a very difficult mana base read.
Yep, good cards, bad mana. He did get there in round number 1 against Alexander Cadu. And yeah, if his mana cooperates, he has a really nice deck featuring the Murmuring Mystic, which is a card that has so impressed us over the course of the weekend. Very nice removal in double Artful Takedown. If his mana works out and he's able to dismantle the threats of Ari Lax, he could win. But Ari has a really nice, low-to-the-ground, consistent Selesnya deck. This is more of an aggressive take on the guild, whereas the other two players in our pod were more about the late-game board stall, coming up with a demanding board presence. But Ari is attacking the opponent's life total. He's got some combat tricks to ensure that he can continue attacking. And I think this is going to favor him just based on the aggression and consistency of his deck.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Ari here can 3-0 the pod, but Chris Ha cannot, but he was undefeated overnight. So that's why they're paired.
Yeah, sometimes strange things happen in pod 1 or any pod where the players come in with divergent records. So, for example, Chris Ha was 9-0 overnight, 1-1 in the pod, but Ari Lax was 8-1 overnight and 2-0 in the pod. Looks like bad start for Ari here.
Yeah.
He I guess, had to mulligan and keep a one-land hand.
Chris Ha, though, underway here. Taking a look at some cards here with Surveil. We're going to ditch the mountain and leave the island on top and draw it. Burglar Rat caused a discard there for Lax, too. All right, well, we found a second land there. Vernati's Shieldmate hits the table.
Yeah, so Ari could be in this one, even though the early stumble. And from a big picture perspective, Ari has to be pretty happy with his situation. Not only is 2-0 a great start for the draft, but when you come in with a worse record than some of the people in your pod, you can be a winner and get paired against players that have lost. So as opposed to a normal draft where you're 2-0, you expect to face the other best deck in the draft pod. Ari is facing Chris Ha, who's actually only 1-1, so a little bit more of a manageable matchup in that sense.
District Guide here, 2 for Lax, able to find another land, so he's able to hit runner, runner, runner for his land drops here. When he started with just 1.
Nice to see him climbing out of the mana screw, and we might actually have a competitive game on our hands.
Back over to Chris Ha for his turn. Bartizan Bats is the play, and he's able to find a second blue source here, which is important for him as he's got a copy of Watcher in the Mist. Parhelion Patrol for Lax. And a pass back. Really seemed like Chris Ha highly prioritized the Rubble Belt Boar and actually the Bartizan Bats too in that draft.
Yeah, just bread and butter creatures to be backed up by his nice removal spells. You can see with Artful Takedown in hand, Chris has a lot of flexibility in setting up nice, favorable combat steps, forcing through some damage.
And there it is. Artful Takedown takes down the Parhelion Patrol, taps the Vernati's Shieldmate, something it's not used to doing.
Boy, that's a pretty nice play. Kill your best creature, attack for 6. Often with Artful Takedown, just based on the color combination, you're used to seeing it played from the back foot where you're tapping an attacker, but it's even more powerful when you can use it aggressively and force through extra damage, really put your opponent on the back foot.
Devkaran Dissident, Luminous Bonds there to lock down the bats from Ari Lax. But yeah, like you mentioned, it's really interesting to not only see these guilds play out in kind of their key archetypes or how they might have been envisioned, but also finding the subtle variances between the guilds, like you mentioned. Ari's kind of lower to the ground Selesnya versus the big beefier end Selesnya that we also saw at the table. Double red too for that direct current for Ha. Watcher in the Mist here. One of my favorite cards to lay down in Guilds of Ravnica.
I really do think it enriches the format, the fact that even within the 5 individual guilds, there are different strategies you can employ, different ways to build them. And Ari making use of a lot of the white cards that would be good in both Boros and Selesnya. There's one of them, Light of the Legion. But these white mentor creatures go in really well with his aggressive plan, his pump spells, so sort of taking advantage of those cross-guild synergies.
Yeah, and here we see a tap down of Capture Sphere to enable a potential attack here for Chris Ha. Watcher in the Mist gets in for 3. And that's a great answer to Light of the Legion, too. You don't want to necessarily kill it with damage and give counters to the rest of Ari's team. Ari Lax down to 7. Chris Ha sitting comfortably at 18.
Very nice position for Chris, particularly with the direct current now in the graveyard. So any card he can pull off the top is going to help him. Even the worst case scenario, which a land, he can just jumpstart his direct current, take out another creature, or further pressure Ari Lax's life total.
I love seeing cards designed to help smooth mana issues and lack of things to do later in the game in Magic, and Jumpstart and Surveil are both play exactly to that.
Yep. I'm sure we've all had the experience in limited Magic of just having a good start and then drawing too many lands and feeling really helpless and like you didn't even get to play the game. But any mechanic that you can build into your deck or into the draft format for that matter that can prevent that feeling makes for a better experience.
Attack there from the Boar and the Watcher and the Mist Deadweight, taking care of the Blade Master, or Blade Instructor, but Take Heart saves the Venati Shieldmate.
Yeah, and a subtle thing that went on there is Chris, well, it looks like he's going to finish it off with Direct Current.
Yep.
But, yeah, Chris declined to block when Ari attacked. He didn't put his Boar into combat when Ari attacked, which meant that instead of Ari getting to take full use of the Take Heart, kill the Boar, and gain life from the attacking creatures, he had to use it on defense, which similar outcome in terms of killing the Boar, but Ari didn't gain 2 life, which meant he didn't get another turn in the face of the Watcher in the Mist. So a subtle, nice play from Chris Ha in making sure that Ari's spells were as little damaging as they could be.
All right, so Chris Ha up a game, currently over Ari Lax. Here we go into game 2. Healer's Hawk for Lax, Demure Informant for Chris Ha, and we should point out that this Healer's Hawk is what he has ridden to victory for both of his other games, his other matches, paired with a Candlelight Vigil out of the sideboard.
Right. In fact, Ari has defeated the 2 larger Selesnya decks, which, according to just very basic level Magic strategy, you would think that the slightly larger decks would have an advantage if the decks mostly mirror each other, and then you have a couple more powerful late game cards that should be to your advantage. But as you mentioned, Ari making great use of the flying creatures, sideboarding in Candlelight Vigil against decks with not so much removal, and it's worked great for him, and here he is at 2-0 in the draft pod.
Candlelight Vigil doesn't seem nearly as attractive with as much removal, like you mentioned, from Chris Ha. There we saw an Artful Takedown to take care of the Rosemane Centaur, and cards like just spells keeping his creatures locked out of the game. Capture Sphere, for instance. Crawl Foragers there for Ari Lax. 4/4 body.
But Chris Ha has the Murmuring Mystic, the best card in his deck, one of the best cards that we've seen all weekend. And now if he's able to find his mana and produce a steady stream of spells, it's just going to bury the Selesnya player. I mean, you can already see Healer's Hawk just completely invalidated by the bird token, but here's a nice play from Ari.
All right, Light of the Legion for Lax, but we do know about the Sphere in Chris's hand. And there it is. Tapping down Light of the Legion, snuffing out that light. Muse Drake and a bird token get in. Ari down to 17. Ari Lax, though, going to turn on the gas a little bit himself here, attacking in with the Foragers and the Hawk.
So if I'm Chris here, I'm taking a look at my hand. If I have a stocked hand where the Murmuring Mystic's going to generate a lot of value, I'll be hesitant to put it into combat. But if my hand just has some more creatures and not that many ways to trigger the ability, I might call the bluff and block Crawl Foragers, but it looks like Chris is going to chump block with Demure Informant, which is a fine decision.
Yeah, 4 life, pretty big swing, even when you're at 20, or this early in the game, rather.
Right, and the fact that Chris does have the Murmuring Mystic means he can have a steady stream of chump blockers. The body of the Dimir Informant is somewhat replaceable, but those 4 points of life might not be.
And look how many lands he's been able to pitch into the graveyard here with Surveil already. Watcher in the Mist adds another 2 to the pile.
Yep, he's mostly just digging for more spells.
In for another 2. Back over to Lax. We'll knock Chris down to 14 and play another Foragers.
So Ari keeping the pressure on.
Did he bring those in, or were those part of his deck read? I can't remember.
They are off the sideboard. Well spotted.
All right, so we're going to trigger this Murmuring Mystic again with Discovery, where we Surveil 2 and draw. By the way, another match down in our feature match area is Alex Watt versus Ian Barber. And that is for a 3-0 potentially.
For Alex, yeah. Alex is 2-0 just like Ari, but he's actually 11-0 is his tournament standing. So came in at 9-0 overnight, drafted a really nice Izzet deck complete with Ral, Izzet Viceroy, and he's playing to be 12-0 our last. Well, he's already our last undefeated player, but
awesome stuff.
Playing to go into draft number 2, remaining undefeated.
You got to feel on top of the world in that position.
Oh yeah.
Forager swing in yet again. Pitiless Gorgon added to Ha's team there is going to jump in front of one of the 4/4s and a bird token. Sacrifices its tiny bird life to save some damage from another 4/4. Life totals 14 to 17. Arilax down to 2 cards in hand. Nice grip, though, for Chris Ha. All of that Surveil really paying off. Burglar Rat is going to take away a land from Arilax. That Burglar Rat isn't always the best at his job. Sometimes all he finds is lands. Though I suppose if you're able to burgle a land, that's like a pretty big game. Land is expensive, especially in Europe.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know how the Burglar Rat would add it to his store of treasures.
Yeah, that's true. Under the cities of Ravnica. At least if you were to have a draft, Burglar Rat's like, I got your land box. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Piston Fist Cyclops for Ha. Status Statue in hand for Ari, but no black mana.
Oh boy, if he had been able to tag the Murmuring Mystic right away, the turn it came down, this game would be very different. But as it is, the low curve Selesnya deck stagnating a little bit, Murmuring Mystic running away with it, and it seems it's Chris Ha's game to lose at this point.
See a Rosemane Centaur as well in Lax's hand. We're having some very passionate calling of a draft behind us.
Right, yeah, this is a time walk match, so we're watching a pre-recorded match in front of us, and meanwhile, Grand Prix Montreal is getting prepared for draft number 2, so we'll have plenty more excitement coming if you stay with us.
Arilax doing his best to battle through this endless stream of birds from Chris Ha over here with that Murmuring Mystic. Rebel Belt Boar here trying to force through some more damage. Lax at 11 before this attack. In for 5.
Yeah, 7 even with the Boar's trigger.
Ah, you're right. You're right. Now he's down to 4.
And Ari having to walk a tightrope where forward, backward, side, side. There don't seem to be any good places he can go. His life total is dropping. It's hard to push through damage, but he is fighting. He's making an all-out attack.
He absolutely is. We saw him come back from the precipice of defeat last round. He was at 1 life and used that Healer's Hawk wearing that Candlelit Vigil to work his way all the way up back past 20. He's a fighter.
Now, Chris, oh geez, I mean, Ari has Might of the Masses in his deck with 5 creatures, so Chris is allowing himself to be dead to that card if Ari has it, but it doesn't. It looks like Ari's only trick is Status Statue.
All right, there's Status. That will save the Rosemane Centaur in this battle. And there's a Luminous Bonds to lock down the Watcher in the Mist. All right.
And the Boar and the Wario copy looks like they traded off.
They're trading.
Yep.
All tied up at 5. Keep in mind that direct current in hand for Chris Ha. No second red mana at the moment, but does represent 4 points of damage.
Plus some more bird tokens.
Yep, that's true. Looks like we're just going to play a big 4/5 here. Dowser of Lights.
Okay, so this is the moment. If Ari finds another Luminous Bonds or a way to attack into this Dowser of Lights, he could be in good shape, but if he's forced to just pass the turn, it gets worse and worse for him.
All right, there's Blade Instructor. That's what he found off the top deck. 3/1 Mentor.
So Chris with Devious Cover-Up, he might be able to afford to play conservatively here. For example, he could pass the turn with the intent to either Devious Cover-Up whatever Ari draws or flash in Capture Sphere at the end of the turn.
Sure.
But Ari's at 4, so it's reasonable to continue attacking as well. Let's just see if Ari can pull something to get out of this to force the action.
There's Capture Sphere on the Healer's Hawk. Mad respect. Oh, locks it on Restorer. All right, well.
Yep, that's something that Chris may have wanted to Devious Cover-Up, but he's still in fine shape. The Dowser of Lights holding off everything on the ground for now.
Arilax's life gain off that elephant back up to 6. Severed Strands here. Wow, this is so nice.
It's perfect. He gets to sacrifice the Watcher in the Mist under Luminous Bonds that had kind of drifted off of our screen, but he still had that ready to go. Gained 4 life, put himself nicely out of range. Though the card I do want us to keep in mind is Might of the Masses, which can give +5/+5 to any unblocked attacker. Chris Ha has not shown himself to be necessarily playing around that card, so anything could happen.
All right, and there's a handshake. Arilax reveals the card. Wasn't enough. Chris Ha takes down that match 2-0 with his Grixis deck.
Yeah, so a nice 2-1 finish in the draft pod for both of those players. Chris, of course, with the better standing coming into the day. He's going to be 11-1, potentially in our #1 draft pod yet again. And Ari will be 10-2, fighting for hopefully a 3-0 to make the top 8.
All right, well, more Magic on the way in just a second. Don't go anywhere.